JB, look, the first nine applicants really didn't bring much to the table here. So I don't know why you're dragging me back through this process one more time.
You keep threatening to retire, Frank. So I got to make sure we got a live one on. But I think I found the perfect guy he's got Division III experience. He's done podcasts. I think we got the right one here. Let's find out.
I'm not sold here at all. I got to be honest with you. So he's already a couple seconds late here. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh wait, there he is. Hey, sir, applicant number 10, I guess, to be official here. How are you? Well, what's your name?
DeLane Fitzgerald.
DeLane Fitzgerald. Okay. Now, according to what we read, the brief resume that JB sent me says you have some kind of Division III experience, maybe coaching-wise or something. Why don't you tell us what that is?
It's been a couple years in NCAA Division III, coaching Southern Virginia University, and then finishing up my D3 experience at Frostburg State University.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there was a Frostburg State in Division III. So we might need to run a background check on you now that you gave us that information. We'll have to see about that. JB, you have any questions for him?
Mr. Rossi, Coach, we were so good in NCAA Division III that they kicked us out.
Is that what happened? Okay, we'll check that. We'll check that. Okay, good to know.
Coach, I understand you've had some podcasting experience, maybe a Bobcast here or there.
Done some Bobcast, done some local ESPN, the radio with the Queen City. They do have a little bit of experience running my mouth.
Okay, in that light, one of my jobs here is to irk Mount Union fans. I think I've done a great job of that over the last few years, and we're wondering if you have any experience doing such a thing, because whoever replaces me needs to carry on that tradition, most likely.
Sir, did you say Mount Union?
I did, actually, yes.
And you said fans?
I did. Yeah, they seem to have a few on social media. Maybe it's the same person over and over. I'm not sure.
Sir, have you ever met a true Mount Union fan?
I try not to, because I think I'm banned from the school. But I would assume they have to exist after 20-something years of success at this point, right? No.
So you're saying they have bandwagon fans?
Well, that's an interesting point. Okay, so I think you're pretty good on this point at this.
Sir, in my opinion, and this may hurt me getting this job, but people that root for Union College in New York, they're real football fans, and people that root for Hobart College in New York, they're real fans. The people that have gone through the ups and downs and weathered the storms with their universities, their colleges, and their football programs, they're fans. The people that just jump on the bandwagon and ride it while it's good, well, hey. Halfway through this season, there were a bunch of New England Patriots fans, and now everybody's Baltimore Ravens.
That's a good point. So, could you identify, if I put this the school's letter or whatever up? Could you identify them? Let's see how you are at it, and tell me what you think of this school, if you can identify it.
Union College in Northern New York, great academic institution, solid football program, in the second round of the playoffs this week with Salisbury.
I'm starting to like this guy, JB. You got some more questions for him?
No, I think we got a winner right here, Frank.
So, DeLane, it was, you said, how are you with technology? Because, I produced the show at the end of the day. I put together all this technology stuff. I hear you're pretty good with a cell phone, at least. How are you?
Born and raised in Nelson County, Virginia. And 20 years ago when I left there, they didn't even have a stoplight. I am what you would call technology challenged.
Well, that's a problem.
If I'm taking over your job, I'm going to need some good assistants. We're going to need some interns and GAs, some young folks to show me the ropes.
Well, did they tell you what the job pays?
No, sir, they did not.
So if I told you we don't actually pay here, would you still be interested in the job?
It's going to be hard for me to provide for my family with $0 in income.
Wait, JB, where did he go? He just disappeared off the screen. Maybe it must be a bad connection or something. He knew he didn't pay, right? Come on, you had to tell him that.
I might have left. I don't know.
We finally found what I like, JB, and he didn't give him the right details. I guess I'm sticking around for another season then.
Well, I tried.
Okay, folks, before you write any cards and letters here and, go crazy about what you just saw in the Open, it was a joke, okay? A somewhat scripted joke. It was not meant to be serious in any way, shape, or form, but we really appreciate DeLane Fitzgerald for playing along in the whole thing. We will have him, actually, a full interview with him later on in the show. He'll be talking about Frostburg State's rise in Division II. In their first year, they went 8-3. 8-3 in the first year. They couldn't go to playoffs. I'll explain what it all meant in the interview. But he has some great insight for what Wesley and Salisbury might be looking like this weekend. And Del Val fans who are using this guy's bulletin board material already, that'd be this guy right there, across the divider for me. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, hey, nice to see you, James. You. Yeah, well, look, if you're Del Valle, you'll have more bulletin board material by the end of that interview, probably. And Union fans, you may as well have some bulletin board material because let's face it, he's very honest right now about his feelings in Division III. Again, first thing was a joke. Everything that's coming up in the interview, real, okay? So let's get this all differentiated now. Okay, also in the show, we are going to go through Tales of the Tape. We know you love them and everything, folks. And then previewing the playoff games, I should say. And then a little special thing we've put together. The schools that are still left in the East region helped us out, putting some holiday greetings from several players together. And we're going to run that toward the end of the show as we give our own thoughts about Thanksgiving and what we're thankful for, as this is our Thanksgiving playoff preview special. JB, Thanksgiving special time. I know you got a lot of kids in the house eating up your Wi-Fi right now, so to the degree you can, you may be only audibly heard and not visibly seen during much of this show because of it. But give one thing you're very thankful for when it comes to our second round of the playoffs that we're previewing right now.
Well, I'm really thankful just for the fact that we've built such nice relationships with all the programs out there in the East region that when I think really you came up with the idea, hey, let's do some Thanksgiving Day, shout outs that these teams, these SIDs, these assistant coaches just jumped on it and really helped produce a great tribute. I mean, Thanksgiving is a time to be with your family. A lot of the guys that are still in the playoffs, the family they're spending time with is really their football teammates. They can't see their moms or dads or nanas or sisters, brothers, cousins, and what have you. You're going to hear lots of different kids from all across the country that are far away from home and won't get to sit around the dinner table over some turkey and stuffing with their loved ones, but they will be with their teammates and so that's their football family. But it made sense at this time of year to give them a chance to try to reach out to friends and family, let them know that they're thinking of them, and it's in just our little way just to say happy Thanksgiving to the D3 fans out there. So hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. Let's start with business, as they say, and talk about the playoff games at hand here.
Playoffs.
And yeah, playoffs. We have three of them to talk about with East Region teams. Next week, we will focus on all four remaining games in this way, where we'll bring in the out-of-region matchups, because it is likely that we will see, well, we kind of know we're going to at least see a team like Del Valle or Wesley go through, so we'll have at least one East team there. Salisbury or Union, so we'll have one there. So at least two of the games will involve East teams in some way, shape, or form or another. Muhlenberg could be on the other half of that. Mount Union could be on the other half of the Del Valle Wesley one. So They're going to be fighting for their lives possibly to keep an East team alive at that point in the quarterfinals.
Yep.
But on the other side, it's the Mary Hardin-Baylor, Whitewater, Scenario, St. John's. Below that, Chapman and Wheaton. So we'll give you a little bit more information about what those teams mean if somehow the East team is able to get to the Stag Bowl in Shenandoah, Texas. Not that far away. Just about 3.5 weeks away, to be honest with you. First game we want to talk about is the game that we kind of have some idea about already. It's the second stanza of an avoidable, we keep saying rematch, but they did not avoid it, and so here we go. Number 9, Del Val at number 10, Wesley. Again, Wesley hosts because the rankings on D3Football.com do not determine this. This is determined by the committee, and then they redetermine on Sundays who hosts based on who filed to host, and any for close calls, they just reassess whether or not the team you assumed should have hosted will be hosting ultimately. This will matter more when we go into closer to the semifinals where you have crossover in brackets. Maybe you have a 1 and a 1 basically going at that point. Who's the one that hosts? We're not necessarily sure at that point in time. Anyway, Del Val, 10 and 1. Their loss to Wesley in quadruple overtime. Wesley, 10 and 1. Their loss to Salisbury. Not in overtime, but it was only a 1 touchdown game. I think there's a little bit of garbage time touchdown there, though. It was more like a 2-possession game late. So, read what you want out of that. Wesley is outgaining Del Val by about 50 yards, but they're defensively, Del Val is better by about 75 yards at this point. The quarterback comparison is a little deceiving, obviously. Anthony Fontana, 26 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So overall plus 26 when you don't factor in fumbles. Drew Fry has only started 1 game. He has 7 touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns, no interceptions, but we've talked plenty about him. Turnover margin, there may have been a slight glitch in Wesley's last week, but at this point we can tell you that it's now +4. It's okay. It happens. You had lots of numbers floating all over the place. It's +4 on both sides, although 24 gained versus 21 gained goes to Del Val if we needed a tiebreaker that way. Points per game differential, +25.2 for Del Val, plus 19.7 for Wesley. Is Del Val a different team compared to last time? You kind of got in trouble for your answer the other day, so we're going to see what your answer is now since Del Val's turned you into bulletin board material, JB. But Wesley, with Drew Fry, you made a bold statement about saying it's a different team, that you would think that Wesley is a large favorite in this game. Explain it better, perhaps, to the folks that want to kind of, pin you on the cork board and just keep throwing darts at you at this point. Give us your thoughts on this one.
Well, Frank, I don't think Del Val has changed that much this season, other than the fact that I believe the quarterback play of Fontana has really improved. He struggled with turnovers in the first few weeks of the season, particularly in this 4 overtime game with Wesley. I think their defense is going to have to try to confuse the freshman quarterback in Drew Fry, and maybe try to work with Mario Nigro in the running game to control the clock more and keep that potent Wesley offense on the sideline for as long as possible. Now, with defensive ends like Vessels and others, running the ball is going to be tough for Del Val, so they might need to take some shots here and there when they can. But the key, Frank, I think, is if Fontana can limit guys like Corey Williams in the secondary are probably going to get an interception. There's going to be a turnover at some point. There's too many good athletes on the Wesley side of things for it not to happen. But if Fontana can limit it to just 1, then we have a ball game here.
Let me ask you a question, though. When it gets to playoffs and tight games and whatnot, sometimes it's character building. You got to think that Del Val had a very character-building game against Bridgewater last week because they had to come back from a 9-point deficit and in pieces, basically, throughout that game and then take a lead big enough to hold off Bridgewater. Wesley, it was almost done at the kickoff. I mean, the kickoff return for a touchdown, pretty much did it in at that point. It was Marcellus Pack, I think, with that initial run back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Do you give Del Val any credit there, or do you say, well, Wesley's been playing close games all season, so a game like this should be old hat to them? Maybe Del Val is really the team that's been inexperienced with the close games, and they got one under the belt here that they won. How do you look at how the season and game one of the playoffs affects these teams right now based on how they won throughout the season?
Well, I think for Del Val, for the first time in probably a while, they're not the home favorite. I mean, you saw them back in 2017 when they hosted Brockport in the national quarterfinals. They were the home team. Like, they have been the kind of the reigning MAC champions for years now. For them to be sort of the road underdog in the playoffs is pretty unusual for them. But you have to credit the coaching staff and the players for hanging in there against a pretty tough Bridgewater team. We look at the tail of tape on them. They had the highest turnover ratio of any team on the east side of the bracket. So the fact that they were able to keep coming back and eventually put away the Eagles says a lot about and here they are again. They're the road underdog to a team that beat them head to head, and they're going to need to cling on to that underdog type of mentality to keep fighting. And I have a feeling that they might look to surprise some folks, maybe me included.
We'll see. You may have some apologies to make next week. I will teach you how to do it because I'm the king of that. I've done it many times.
I'll order some crow with my turkey after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Well, that game is at noon Eastern time, as all these games are that we're talking about right now. So you'll be wanting to watch that one on the Wesley stream. Hopefully it is in one piece. We've had some issues throughout the season with their stream. Hopefully it goes okay there on Saturday. Also down, Route 13, will be another game that I'll be attending. And let's look at this one. Union at Salisbury. It's spelled Salisbury, we understand, but it is Salisbury for Union fans out there. Please respect your hosts rather by calling it the right name, because I certainly didn't 10 years ago when I went on the air and they threw notes at me like it was my job. Yeah, it was Salisbury. Got it. Okay, here we go. Two undefeated teams in this game: 11-0 Union, 10-0 Salisbury. So closest game really for these teams, I think, was Wesley for Salisbury, because Oshkosh was, I think, 2 possessions by the end of it. And Union's closest game, well, let's go back here. Maybe the
last weekend.
Yeah, it's got to be the Case Western game. Yeah, heck of a time to get your closest game, I guess. But again, maybe it builds character, as we were saying. Offensively, though, here's where things start getting interesting. About 73 yards more per game offensively for Salisbury, and their defense is 15 yards better. Jack Lanham has 10 touchdown passes, 11 touchdown rushes. Very interesting that it's almost a 50-50 split there for Lanham, and 2 interceptions.
Yep.
We spoke briefly about this last week. We'll re-examine it in a moment. Will Bellamy, though, 21 passing touchdowns. The man has not rushed in yet for a touchdown. Maybe he needs to this week for a change. We'll see what happens. 4 interceptions on season. Very efficient quarterbacks when you look at the fact that they're combined for only 6 interceptions this season. Union, though, has been a team of ball hawks with the 24 gained interceptions. They're plus 10 versus plus 1 for Salisbury. Although we had somebody that was explaining to us that some of the balancing of the turnover margin was caused by late game stuff that was going on, fumbles lost by second stringers, to which I said Sherwood, I'm sure, was really thrilled with his team, no matter who was in the game, for losing the ball in those situations. But without more, we have to abide by the fact it's plus 10, plus 1. Point differential, though, Union is plus 20.2. Salisbury averaging 50 points 4 per game right now. 50 is a plus 33.5 differential. We're not going to steal DeLane Fitzgerald's thunder on this game, which is coming up again in just a little bit. But JB, I I'm concerned as a Union fan. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm concerned as a Union fan here. I mean, I can wear this hat all I want, but this hat alone is not going to get the job done. It's going to take a lot of, I think, gadgetry, ball control, and they cannot let this game turn into a shootout. They cannot win a game in the 30s against Salisbury, is my view. What do you think?
Well, if I'm a Union fan, I'm hoping that it's deja vu all over again. And what I'm referring to is how kind of pedestrian Union looked when they played Utica a week before. So they beat Ithaca, huge win, first time ever at Butterfield. Effectively, had locked up the conference championship for them. And then they had this Utica team coming to town who needed a win desperately to try to stay alive for the postseason. They were able to win, but it wasn't pretty. And then the next week they went out and just laid it on their number one rival, RPI, 33-0. And then we kind of saw in the first half of the Case Western game the exact Union team that we saw against Utica. And then in the second half, we saw the Union team that went up against RPI. So it's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde kind of situation for Union. And I think they need to lock into that, whether if you want to say Jekyll is good, then than the Jekyll side of things. Although they might need to be a little bit Hyde here and there and bring the wood on defense because Salisbury is going to just keep running the ball. But ultimately the defensive backs have to be ready for that every once in a while pass play, because we know that this Salisbury team is not your traditional triple option where they they're going to throw the ball when they can. So it's good that Union's seen a team like Springfield, and it's good that the secondary has played in the Liberty League, which boasts some of the best quarterbacks in the East region. So they've seen a lot of strong passing teams. But Salisbury is a different animal, and it's going to be a challenge for the Dutchmen. But if they can get off to a good start, we might have a ball game here.
Well, you said bring the wood. I'm sure you did not mean Sherman Wood in that case, because he's going to be out there ready to go for this game, coach for Salisbury. But you said every now and again with the passes. We've seen Jack Lanham throw 21 times in games this season. That is not typical for a triple option team. We're going to hear more about why it is turning into that. Again, DeLane Fitzgerald brings up some great points that we didn't even realize about offensive coordinator and Sherman Wood's smartest move that he feels as a coach coming up in the interview in a little bit. So, again, stay tuned. We got one more game to talk about, then we'll run into that interview. We want to talk about the Brockport-Muhlenberg game in the tail of the tape there first. But before we leave this game, what is the most number of points you feel that Union can give up and still win this game? Yeah, I know.
20-something. It can't get above 30. I mean, I just feel like
I think it's 20. To be honest with you, I think 20 is that zone where I would say to you, they will win this game on at least 50-50 ball. If you go above 20, I start sliding from 50-50 down to 0 very quickly up to the number 30, as you're saying at that point.
Yeah, and they're going to have to figure out ways to complete drives. Halpin's a good kicker. He's not a great kicker. He will be able to, convert, I think, field goals within the 30 to 40-yard range. But you're not going to beat a team like Salisbury kicking field goals. So they need to come up with maybe some plays on special teams, something out of the ordinary. And Jeff Berman is an offensive mind. I'm sure he's got some tricks up his sleeves. And at this point, this is one of those situations where you're definitely considered the underdog. Just throw the kitchen sink out there and play your best game and just see how it goes.
Yeah, remember the team that is number 1 in the East regional rankings was Salisbury, and Union was a full 3 spots lower according to the committee. Though we disagree with that, we think that they were actually number 2 in our minds compared to Salisbury. They are below them in some way, shape, or form. I guess this game will prove who was right, whether they really should have been number 2 or better, or if they really were a number 4 team that had that much separation between them and Salisbury. Stay tuned. Saturday we'll find out. Friday we'll predict the game as always. Last game here, tail of tape wise. I think it's the second largest number of losses still with the team in the playoffs. Brockport at 9-2. Huntington has 3 losses against Mary Hardin Baylor. Is going up against undefeated number 4 Muhlenberg in the third game, which is in the Salisbury bracket. Don't forget. Muhlenberg has a 24-yard per game advantage. I'm surprised it's not a bigger differential. I'm surprised that Brockport's at 411 yards based on the interesting season they've had offensively.
But look at their rushing numbers.
Wow. Yeah, 223.5 compared to 158.5
like
at a good point.
In a way.
yeah, absolutely. But look, Brockport has a better defense by more than those 24 yards. It's about a 30-yard differential right there between the two teams. Freddie June appears to be the man again, the freshman with 8 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Michael Nikowski, though, 40 touchdowns, 40, with 3 interceptions. He's plus 37, again, factoring out fumbles. Brockport's turnover margin, only a plus 3, though, compared to Muhlenberg's plus 9. That's a little interesting when you're giving up a lot less yardage in this whole situation. I would have expected it to be flipped, or at least more even than that. And point differential, plus 15.3 for Brockport, plus 31 for Muhlenberg. And so when you put those last 2 statistics together, JB, what it's telling me is that Brockport is giving up the ball at the wrong times and not completing drives for scores as much as Muhlenberg is. And so ball control matters to give you points, to punch it in somehow, way, shape, or form. Brockport's got to hold on to this ball. Brockport, I don't think, can even cough this ball up once to win this game this weekend. I know you gave a little bit of credence to the ability of Del Val maybe to have 1 turnover against Wesley and still win the game. I'm not sure Brockport can turn it over even once in this game.
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me, Frank, is if you look at the defensive line, I mean, 27 rush yards allowed by the Golden Eagles defense and just under 70 yards for the Mules. So you have a rush heavy Brockport team, coming in. This is the old, what is it? The unstoppable force against the immovable object, right? So something's going to got to give there, whether it's going to be the Muhlenberg rush defense, or are we going to see a situation, since Muhlenberg's also great at stopping the run, does this turn into, can Freddie June, find his receiving core open, and all of a sudden we get the opposite of the game that we expected? Instead of running, it's just a bunch of mid to long pass plays. I'm sure the Julia Code Wildcat is going to be, coming into play here and there. But if they can't find open space with that, and all of a sudden they're facing some 2nd and 10s and 3rd and 8s, you got to throw the ball. And,
well, two things I want to say, branching off what you just said. Number one, they're going to have to get Freddie June successful in the pass, because Muhlenberg's going to basically say, if you're going to beat us, it is with the pass, Freddie June.
Yeah.
Okay, that's clear to me. So until he proves he can successfully pass the ball, they're going to basically put a lot of guys in the box, I think, to stop the run, because they know that's the most dangerous facet of the Brockport game. Having said that, again, this game, for Brockport's sake, cannot turn into a shootout. They cannot win a shootout in this situation, because that would rely on the pass as much as anything, I think. Again, I don't think this is a game that can be won by Brockport in the 30s. I think it has to be in the 20s or less. Maybe 24, 27 points they could give up and still win. I think they have a little bit more margin for error than even Union does against Salisbury. But in the 30s, I think this game is totally Muhlenberg's still.
Yeah, the one thing I wonder about is the fact that, even though they've really had to rely on the run this season, I mean, there are still pretty much, except for, I think, Brown, all the same wide receivers from the last couple of years that Joe Germinario would throw lots of passing touchdowns to. There is a lot of talent in the receiving core that the Golden Eagles have, but really haven't leveraged yet. So, if I'm a Golden Eagles fan, I'm wondering, why don't we try to get Ortiz and some of these other guys open and out there, because they can make plays. And as the tail of the tape says, and almost 200 yards passing allowed a game. Hey, why not? Give it a whirl. What do you got to lose?
Yeah, it is almost house money when you're looking at the fact, again, that you're going up against an undefeated team who's number 4 in the nation, and you have 2 losses right now. About 10 weeks ago, Brockport wasn't even a playoff-worthy team in anybody's mind, okay? This wasn't even possible. They fight through a tough game against Western New England. It is house money at this point to me. I understand they have higher expectations at Brockport than this, because of what they've been through the last couple of years. But last year we were looking at a second-round game that turned into a complete debacle for them in terms of team spirit, locker room respect, and a lot of other things that occurred from it, versus a game here where they're not expected to win. This is completely different the way they should be going into this game. They should look at this game like, if we win this game, we have beaten odds that are so unbelievable with a new quarterback situation that a year ago, we didn't even know it was going to develop like this because it wasn't there at that point. It wasn't this where we had, the whole whatever with Joe and Joe leaving and everything else. Okay, if they win this game, holy cow. If they lose this game, they still have everything in the world to be proud of. Okay, but we won't talk about that right now. We'll talk about if they win it. Wow, that's what they're going to want to focus on. We'll do the same thing right now for them. So. I want to talk about somebody who is used to winning, and we thought would maybe have a little less winning going on this season. Boy, were we wrong. DeLane Fitzgerald, Frostburg State. They went from Division III to the West Virginia Conference in Division II. I think it was a lot of their travel actually got easier, to be honest with you, this season because the NJAC was wider radius than the games they had to play this year in the West Virginia League in Division II. So it's a very interesting analysis you could do as to the reasons you go to Division II and what it all means at the end of the day. But obviously they're not fully scholarshiped up yet. Obviously they had some carryover players in Division III, and they went 8-3. Are you kidding me? Let's ask them what happened. Here comes the interview with DeLane Fitzgerald. It's a good thing, we were forced to sign a waiver with DeLane Fitzgerald before an interview that we won't hit record until we tell him we're hitting record, because he is a storyteller of storytellers, and he's going to tell us some stories about Division II coming up here. We miss him in Division III. JB, I know you agree with that one 110%. But first, DeLane Fitzgerald, welcome back to In the Huddle.
Frank and James, thank you for having me.
It's been almost a year. We were just catching up, and the stories are great as always. Thanks, Coach, for some good laughs even before we took to the air here. And it's obviously a bittersweet scenario. We've lost your team, and the NJAC seemed a little bit pedestrian at times without you guys in there with the out-of-conference stuff, the way it went for them this season. But obviously, you are impressing a lot of people. We're so darn proud of you and your team for what they were able to do at 8-3 this season. How do you feel right now after a season is in the books away from Division III, but in Division II with such success right now?
Hey, first off, I thought you gentlemen had forgotten about us. I hadn't heard from you in about a year. Was happy to hear from you this past week. Hey, I figured Frank and James had moved on to greener pastures and didn't want to talk to me anymore.
And we always want to talk to you, Coach. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, this past fall what was a learning experience for our coaching staff and our players and our football program. We played well, and we had a stretch in the middle of the season where we won 7 games. It was a great experience for our coaching staff and for our players.
Indeed, it looked like it was, after the start with the loss, and the reel off 7 straight like that, the way you were able to just caught people by surprise, Coach. But you're the guy that always comes out there and says, we're going to win 3 games this season if we're lucky. But behind the scenes, did you kind of know that this was possible? I mean, how many players from Division III did you carry forward to this roster this year? Tell us how that all worked, because I guess the question a lot of people have is, how would Division III teams do against some of these Division II teams if you're able to carry that many Division III players over to Division II and have that success, or did you? We don't know the answer to that question, so we'll rely on you for that answer.
Yeah, maybe the best coaching job that our coaching staff has done here, and I'm fortunate to have a great coaching staff. Our offense, defense, special team coordinators are very good at what they do, and then we have some interns and GAs and part-time guys that just do a nice job. Good football coaches that did a nice job of piecing a team together. Frank and James, we had a good core of football players returning. We knew we were going to have to get new help at the defensive tackle position and the offensive tackle position. We had freshmen come in and play really well at those two positions. And then, we lost Connor Cox at the quarterback position, and we had to replace him. We were fortunate enough to land a FCS graduate transfer from Albany, Will Brunson, and he come in here and did a nice job of piecing things together for us. You talked about, what I probably told everybody. And yes, I probably told everybody I spoke to in the last year that we were going to win 2 or 3 games this year. In my heart of hearts, I thought we would win between 4 and 6 games this fall. So with that being said, it was a successful season. I'm learning a little bit about myself as we go here, that my expectations have to be higher than they are. You asked about where D3 teams stack up with D2 teams. When in 2017, when we made that Elite 8 run and won 11 games in Division III, and what I thought we had was a national title contender, and I think we did. I told everybody that offseason that we would beat 60 or 70 of the Division II teams in the country that year. I still believe that we would have beat 60 or 70 of those teams in 2017. In 2019, we had about the same caliber of team, and we went 8-3. So hey, maybe I was right.
Coach, when I know you're with the change of schedule, you're playing more regional teams. You're not necessarily on the road as much, but what would you say are some of the major differences that you've seen in just this past year? Between the Division II and 3 levels, whether it's the stadiums. I mean, everybody obviously knows about the scholarships and this and that. Maybe not the specifics of how many Division II scholarships there are, but what, from your vantage point, for the folks out there in D3 land that may or may not know much about Division II football, what are some of the similarities and differences that you've seen overall?
Yeah, the similarities is that football is football is football. Okay, the team that commits the team that commits the least amount of penalties, and the team that goes forward on offense, and the team that doesn't turn the football over is going to win the majority of the football games. It's still all about running and catching and blocking and tackling and block defeat. Those things, those similarities don't change. I think whether you're playing in the NJAC, playing NCAA Division III, or you're playing in the NFL and you're the New England Patriots or the Baltimore Ravens, I think the fundamentals of football are the fundamentals of football, and I don't think that changes. You're asking about some of the differences. The Division II players are bigger, stronger, and faster than the Division III players. That happens. At the Division II level, you're allowed a maximum of 36 scholarships. Now, what each university and each president and board of trustees has done is they've decided what each school is getting. And we have 3 or 4 schools in our conference with 36 scholarships. And we have them in our conference with 30 scholarships, and we have them in our conference with 28. If you were asking me to guess, we're in the Mountain East Conference now, and the average is going to be 28 or 29 equivalencies. An equivalency is a full scholarship, and that's kind of where the conference is at right now. Guys, there are Division II football programs in the country with 7 equivalencies. That they've got 7 scholarships, and that's what they're playing with. Where I take issue with that is you hire a head coach and you give him 7 scholarships, and then you fire him 3 or 4 years later because he's not winning. Well, he's not winning because he's playing against a bunch of schools with 30 scholarships.
Right.
And in my Division II, my 1 year in Division II, okay.
Yep.
I've been disappointed. I've been disappointed with the universities and the facilities. Some of the facilities we've seen need upgrading a bunch. The universities as a whole and the facilities of the Division III universities, on average, are better than the Division II schools.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if giving money out in the scholarship system makes them have to make that choice between the upgrades versus what they have to give in that aid type fashion in terms of scholarships. It's an interesting analysis that could be done, I think, ultimately between how Division III has decent facilities generally, not all of them obviously, but Division II might be struggling in that respect. Coach, what was the biggest adjustment for you in the last year for having to go from Division Two, coming from Division Three? What hurdle was the biggest for you, or what change did you have to make that was the biggest thing for you personally during last year?
Yeah, the paperwork, the amount of paperwork in the rules. Not a ton of rules in NCAA Division III, not a ton of paperwork. Now there's plenty of paperwork. But we went from a manageable load of paperwork as a head coach to it being almost unbearable. As a university, we hired 3 or 4 extra assistant athletic directors, and every time we hire a new boss, that it just adds new paperwork. You would think as you would hire people at the upper level that the paperwork would go away, but it hadn't. It's doubled and tripled and quadrupled, and that there's times in here where the paperwork stacked up on my desk, a foot high, and it's more than any football coach should ever have to be doing.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not a desk job when you're trying to coach a football team. But Coach, we're in the the playoff time of season. Obviously, as a new program, you guys weren't eligible to play in the D2 playoffs. But I have seen out there in social media land a lot of Division III fans kind of advocating that Division III switch to the Division II model with kind of less automatic qualifiers and more at-large berths, kind of I guess you could say like a merit type of system. You guys will be eligible, I assume, in a couple years, and before the call you were mentioning some stuff about the Division II bowls. But what are your thoughts? Do you think a Division II playoff system could work in Division III, or are there just too many teams at this level to really make that work? Or what are some of the pros and cons of implementing a D2 type philosophy in Division III?
There's pluses and minuses to the Division II playoff system and to the Division III playoff system, guys. I would say this one: I am a fan of the automatic qualifier. James and Frank, if you win your conference, your goal, your first day of practice, you're trying to win the first game, but your ultimate goal should be to win your conference. If that's not the goal, then why would you have a conference? Why are you in a conference? Other than, what do you call it, the easiness of scheduling. But I would tell you, if you win your conference, you should make the playoffs. So I really like that about NCAA Division III. If I was tweaking the NCAA Division III model, I would do this. I would add. You got 4 regions. I would add 4 more at-large teams, because there's some second-place teams in the conferences that really deserve to make it. Just talking about what I know and what I've experienced, maybe our best football team in this university's history was 2016. We go 9-1. We lose to Wesley on the road at Wesley, and we get left out of the playoffs. We end up going to the Bushnell Bowl in Philadelphia to play. Well, we were going to win a playoff game 2 or 3 with that team because we were so good on defense. All-American free technique, all-American defensive end, and we got left out. So if you were asking just my amateur opinion on the playoff system, D3 should keep it exactly like it is now. They should add 4 more at-large teams, and maybe you give the 4 1 seeds, they get a bye. They get a bye in week 1, and everybody else plays. That would be the tweak. NCAA Division II. I like the playoff system, but because here's what happens: the top 7 teams in the regional rankings make the playoffs, and you can be a conference champion in Division II and get left out. I don't believe in that. If you win your conference, you should be in, no matter how the conference went, strength of schedule, and all of that. This year, for instance, there are in our region. Okay, there's 1 team from the Mountain East, our conference, in there. There's 1 team from the GMAC, which is mostly the Ohio teams that is in there, and there is 4 or 5 teams out of the PSAC. Well, there's some teams in the PSAC that didn't belong in the Division II playoffs this year and shouldn't have been in there. The Northeast 10, that Division II conference in New York and New England, their conference champion didn't get into the playoffs. And by all rights, their conference champion should have been in the playoffs.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good insight for sure. Now, you left a conference that ended up with, despite some of the out-of-conference problems the conference had in the NJAC, two Division III playoff contenders that remain contenders right now, or players in this whole system. We have Salisbury, we have Wesley. Now, I know you, Coach, and despite all the paperwork that was on your desk, I know you were still watching kind of out the corner of your eye what was been going on in Division III, because old habits die hard, and that's for all of us. What do you think of this Wesley team and this whole idea of using a freshman quarterback out of nowhere into the playoffs, like they are with Drew Fry? And what do you think of the job that Sherman Wood has done this season for Salisbury? Give us your kind of 40,000-foot view here of what Salisbury and Wesley look like to you as they go to the second round of the playoffs right now.
Yeah, Salisbury and Wesley look like two teams that could do a lot of damage in the NCAA playoffs this year. I'll start with Wesley. I have always thought that Wesley was one of the better coach teams in the country. Chip Knapp is one of the best offensive coordinators. He may be the best offensive coordinator in Division III football history. He's been there for going on 30 years and done a great job running that offense. I see again that they're very good on offense this year. That's the strength of their team. They're going to outscore some teams, and they've already outscored a bunch of teams this year. Their only losses to Salisbury, and if I'm not mistaken, they lost at Salisbury, which is a hard place to win. Wesley's going to win again this weekend. They're going to score a bunch of points this weekend and move on to the Elite Eight.
Be careful. You're going to become bulletin board material like the guy right here for some of these bold predictions.
I lost some friends at Del Valle this week. What are you going to do?
there you go. Wesley is well coached. And you knew after they finished the regular season last year 6-4, went to a bowl game, won that bowl game, finished 7-4. Well, half the teams in NCAA Division III would take a 7-4 season and be very, very happy with it. That is a down year. It's almost, what do you call it, depression-like in Dover, Delaware, for them to lose 4 games in one season, only win 7. You knew they were going to bounce back, and you knew they were going to bounce back with a vengeance. One of the things that bothered me about leaving Division III was not getting a chance to play Wesley and to play Salisbury again. So anyway, bothered us a little bit. On Salisbury, Sherman Wood's done a nice job of coaching that program for 25-ish years there as the head coach. Sherman Wood's greatest move as a head coach may be this. Gallaudet hired Ryan Fleetwood, his offensive coordinator, away from him 3 seasons ago. And Ryan went for like 2 seasons at Gallaudet, and he was rumored to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in all of Division III football, making a bunch of money and, living the good life just outside of D.C. and all of that. Sherman's best move as a head coach in his time at Salisbury was he went and got Ryan back. Now, the chance for Ryan to come back and coach with his father, Doug Fleetwood, as the offensive line coach there, was probably a big plus. But Sherman recognized that the Salisbury midline triple offense had become a little stale. It had become a little stagnant, and he went and got his midline triple guru back in Ryan. Ryan also does a great job in a couple of other areas there with that football program, but him and his father work real well together. They wouldn't be undefeated if Ryan hadn't come back as the offensive coordinator. And then you flip over on the other side of the ball, and Rob Disbennett's been running the defense there for 20-plus years. Rob played quarterback at Salisbury in the 80s and was a great player, and he's been a great coach there his whole life. But when you got a guy that loyal running your defense, and the funny thing about Rob and the Salisbury defense is what they're doing on every single play. They're going to line up a certain way, and they're going to do what they do and just be extremely solid in what they're doing, a read and react defense. been very successful. In summarizing this, Salisbury making the playoffs and winning the conference didn't surprise me. They weren't picked to win the conference this year. Wesley was, but I told some of the administrators and people in the area that Salisbury was going to be the team to beat. I had an athletic director in the NJAC tell me that Montclair State was going to win that conference, and his justification was this. He said every year the team with the best quarterback wins the NJAC, and Montclair State has the best quarterback in the conference this year. And I laughed and smiled at him. I said, "You're right that they returned the best returning quarterback." I said, "However, if the tackles and guards keep tipping whether Montclair is throwing the ball or running the ball, well, it makes it real easy for a defense to hold them down." Montclair's been tipping their plays for years, and I'm sure they probably still did it again this fall. But with the guards and tackles do with their hands and their stances, it lets you know what's going on. Salisbury winning the conference didn't surprise me. I expected it. And I'll tell you this about the playoffs. Okay, they hung a number on Coast Guard Academy last week, almost abusive. I don't
SUNY Maritime.
SUNY Maritime. Sorry, my fault. Salisbury is going to score 38, 40, 42 points again this weekend on that team from upstate New York that they're playing on Saturday. And they'll move on to the Elite Eight also.
I'll be over here.
Prediction. Use nice round numbers. Salisbury 40, Union 20 this weekend. Salisbury's offense in a playoff setting. Yeah, Salisbury's offense in a playoff setting would be very, very difficult for teams that don't see it every year and don't have to prepare for that offense.
Am I redder than a beet right now since you just picked against my school 40-20?
Well, it's funny the coach said the thing about round numbers, Frank, because when I was actually pulling the slides together for our tail of the tape, Salisbury's averaging exactly 50 points per game on offense right now. That's a round number.
That's a lot of round number, though. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, Frank. So the silver lining is this: you'll be able to say your alma mater held them to 10 points below their average.
There you go.
Oh my God. I'm not going to tell Jeff Bierman when I see him tonight over at Union that this conversation even occurred. I'll let him watch it himself on Wednesday because I'm going to get kicked off campus if I let this run with him knowing it. Anyway, we brought up your name earlier in the season also. Dustin Johnson got his first wins as head coach. First wins, I think, since 2016 for William Patterson. They did not, I don't believe, get a conference win yet, but 2020 is right around the corner. You told us coming in, or at some point last year, that William Patterson was a team to be reckoned with because of Dustin Johnson, who is a protege from the Sherm Wood days when he was with him. What is your thought right now about Dustin Johnson and the job he's doing at William Patterson?
Yeah, Dustin Johnson's a class act and a good young football coach. I knew they would break that losing streak this year, and then early on in the season, I think they were 2-2 or 2-3. I had hopes that Dustin was going to be able to win two or three more games and put together a little more of a successful season. Dustin will be as good as the William Patterson administration allows him to be. The president there and the athletic director and the assistant AD, he'll be as good as they let him be. My hope is that the university gives Dustin some support with that football program and allows him to bring in some kids and cultivate a winning culture there.
So, Coach, you've got all these coaches shows now that follow you around. You got all these media opportunities and whatnot. Now that you're Division II, and it's a little more high profile in that respect for you from what we've seen. We watch. We don't necessarily text you every day, but we watch to see what you're up to down there. And but did you miss us at least? Did you miss Division III? Did you miss us? At least now that you bashed my school's chances this weekend, tell us something good.
Yeah, the answer is this: you guys are great. I miss D3Football.com. I miss you guys. Y'all all do a great job. Hey, I miss the Thursday article that came out on D3.com every week, and then the Friday predictions used to make me laugh. Until we got good, you talked about the bulletin board material. Hey, Frank would pick against us every week, and somebody else would pick against us every week, and yeah. We'd be on the bus going to away games on Fridays, and I'd be reading it off of my phone. I'd have my phone and be reading it to the guys and all that, have them all fired up. I miss those things. For a guy that played FCS football at James Madison University, I really enjoyed NCAA Division III. And I would say this, and guys, I'm not kissing up to you, okay? Not really my style. NCAA Division III athletics is the purest form. It's the purest form of athletics, and it's student athletes and people that they realize as freshmen that their education is the most important part of them being there, and that's the reason for them being there on that campus. And we always talked about the 4 F's around here, and it was faith, family, football, and your future. And your future was your education. And we used to tell them all that it didn't go in that order. We still tell our players that, okay, that it doesn't go in that order. Your future should come first. Your future and your family should be right there, 1, 2, and then your faith, and then football, and kind of go in that order. I miss the purity of Division III football. I miss playing the teams on the East Coast. I really, really enjoyed Division III football. And guys, I can't. We talked about it with the playoff system. If I'm the NCAA and I'm making rules and making changes in Division III football, I don't know if there's a whole lot I change, because it's probably the way things should be.
Coach, one thing I'd like to run by you, because it's a big deal down here in Florida, and I've seen it now start to spread into the Division III ranks. I've had agreements to disagree with some coaches and friends of mine about this, but I really hate, and I will emphasize that, this whole Division III offering thing that's been going on. You see it on social media. You see a lot of young 17, 18-year-old kids thanking so-and-so school for their offer to play Division III football. I guess I understand in a way that you kind of have to play to your market, but I agree with you. It's Division III is supposed to be about the purity, and it's about the future and the student athlete. What's the deal with this new trend of offering D3 kids when it's really just hey, we'd like you to play on our team, just apply to our school and show up, and you've got a roster spot. It just seems a little disingenuous to me, but at the same time, I understand why coaches have to go along with it, because apparently we have a generation of kids now who want to show up and say, here's my offer letter from so-and-so university.
You hit the nail on the head when you said it's just a roster spot, and that's in NCAA Division III football. Hey, for the most part now, there's still there's a couple schools at the top that are embedded in the funny business, okay, and they may be giving out some offers. Yeah, but hey, Hobart College and Union College and Salisbury and Frostburg when we were Division III. Yeah, the only thing we were ever offering someone was a roster spot. But then you touched on part of it. Hey, there's a me generation right now. It's about me. And what happens with these young men is they got a teammate that gets an offer from a Division I or an FCS school or a Division II school. He gets a scholarship offer, and they just feel so left out that when the Division III school down the road offers them a roster spot, well, they publicize that too. Hey, I've been offered too. I think they want to feel that they want to fit in. They want to feel like they're in, and they're as good as the other player. It's more than just Division III, James. That Pioneer Conference, the FCS conference that is non-scholarship.
Yeah, Stetson down the road. Yeah. Yep.
You see over and over. I just got an offer from Stetson. I just got an offer from Valparaiso. I just got an offer from Morehead State. Well, you want to say, son, you haven't been offered anything except for a roster spot. Yeah, with those coaches, they can't even offer you admission into school. So you've still got to get through the admissions process and get into those schools, same as Division III. Yeah, the only thing you've been offered is a spot on the team, and you've only been offered that spot for one season. You're going to have to earn that spot again your sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Yes, sir.
Coach, I'm going to be a me person for a second here. Behind me, you do see my name on a Wesley jersey. You see Montclair State, even though they may tip off their place at the line. You see a Springfield T-shirt. You see, I believe, Montclair poster there, and a Union hat and a Wesley hat. We do take things from Division II schools that are named Frostburg State. If you do want to send something to either of our ways, so to at least have the memory of you, in our little shrine to Division III here. So just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to, kiss up to you here or trying to get something from you, but just remember us now. That said, too, though, we miss you and we appreciate you. You didn't even hesitate to respond to us in terms of a request the other day when we texted you to say, hey, could you come on the show? And it's like old times, and we are so proud of you and your team for what they have done. 8-3 was astounding. Nobody expected that from, let's say the ranks of journalists and broadcasters out there in Division III. So you did us proud, and you always do us proud, Coach, and we really appreciate you. Thanks for coming back on the show with us.
Guys, y'all, thanks for having me. I need both of your mailing addresses, and your shirts and jerseys and stuff will go out in the mail today.
All right.
That was way too easy on my part. Everybody's gonna be like, Frank, you really shouldn't have done that.
I just got offered from Frostburg.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going.
Frank, you just got to promise me that my Frostburg stuff's going to cover up that Wesley and Montclair stuff.
I cover maybe not, but we'll make room so that at least it's on the same line. How's that? Because Richie and Cola.
Give you a cut. I am a Coach G fan. The NJAC refuses to name the Coach of the Year award after him, but it should be named after him. It should be the Rick Giancola NJAC Coach of the Year each year.
Yes, sir.
But they don't want to hear that from me now. You asked about my thoughts about Division III, and you guys, here's a good one for you, okay? Our special teams coordinator, DB's coach, is an Ithaca grad, okay? Our defensive GA is a Kane, however you want to pronounce it, grad.
Kane. I've learned the hard way.
Dan Garrett disciple, who's one of my favorites all time. Our wide receivers coach is a Montclair State graduate. We have a couple of Frostburg grads working around here as young coaches, and then our tight ends and fullbacks coaches are Christopher Newport grad. So we're kind of like a all NJAC coaching staff here.
Sure.
Well. Yeah, it's again, old habits die hard, as we said earlier, and you know that they are passionate about football just by the fact that they are around Division III as long as they were. So you know what? Hearing it from you today actually reinvigorates us in terms of why we do this for Division III. It ain't for the money. It might be for a jersey or a shirt a little bit, I guess, but it ain't for the money. That's for sure. Coach, thanks again.
No, it's. Guys, it's pure. That's why you're doing it. NCAA Division III football is pure. Hey, thank y'all for having me. Go Bobcats.
That's right.
So, okay, one thing we got to say is after the interview was over, he did ask us the question about whether or not Union had faced a mid-level triple team like Salisbury is.
Yep.
And we said, yes, Coach, Salisbury, and Springfield, excuse me. And he said, well, if that's the case, then maybe it should be more like a 42-27 score to his book, something around those lines. So the 40-20 thing actually might be a little bit closer in his mind for another possession. That said, he still has a lot of positive things to say about Salisbury and their capabilities in this game. You and I love this guy. We talk to him probably as much off camera as we do on camera when we talk to him.
I'm kicking myself that he wasn't the first person that I called to do when I was writing the NJAC preseason preview. What an idiot I was. I would have probably caught on to Salisbury. Like, what was I thinking? Here, like, I'll talk to, Coach Fitzgerald just puts it all out there, and he knows these, he knows all these programs. He knows this, this deal so well. And, he makes a lot of great points, and so it'll be interesting to see if his predictions pan out.
Yeah, I think that he's happy where he is right now, but I think he misses a lot of the old faces that he was dealing with. Yeah. I wonder if someday we won't see him back in Division III. There's a part of me that feels he loves the purity of the game in Division III. Maybe later on in life when he is done ascending in the coaching ranks, because this is a guy like Lance Leipold in my book that could go to Division One eventually, the FCS or something else.
Oh, yeah.
He really could. I mean, look, he's got nothing left to prove to me because going 8-3 in year number 1 in Division Two, you can't be serious that that's even possible. Okay. Yeah. You should not win more than 3 or 4 games in your first year when you make that transition, and they won 8. Okay, so I don't care how easy you think that conference is. It's not that easy, no matter where it is. It's Division II, folks. There's scholarships involved. So, when he's done ascending, I have a feeling later on in his career we'll see him back in Division III, and we'll all be better for in Division III when he's back down here, in division number. I'm not saying that it's beneath him to coach in this division, just down in terms of numbers, 1, 2, 3. That's the philosophy out there. One thing though that we lost sight of, and so we were actually chatting with Will Bellamy, believe it or not, on Saturday and Sunday of this weekend. Is when you win a playoff game, automatically, because the way the schedule works, you are destined to miss Thanksgiving with your family if you don't live originally or reside near the school you go to. And
that's true.
There are 5 schools left, as we chronicled, in the East region in the playoffs. And there are a bunch of players that are not going to be home for the holiday for the first time probably ever. If you're Union, for instance, Brockport may be a little bit more used to it because they've gone to the second round each of the last 2 years. But remember, it's shortened rosters right now, so some of the players didn't stay on the roster. They could have went home last year or the year before that if they were
true. Yeah.
So here's what we decided to do. We asked the schools, please, for the players that want to, that won't get to spend Thanksgiving with their family, send some messages, video messages. We'll assemble them on the show and get them going. So, couple things. First off, you'll learn really fast which schools have rosters from outside the direct area and which don't. Yeah. And Del Val and Salisbury have the least videos here for a couple of very simple reasons. One, Del Val had an issue, actually, with technology, but they weren't going to have many in the first place because, again, it's a lot of players from around the area. And Aaron Nelson, who you're seeing right now, started doing his, and then technology gave them fits. And so Aaron does send his love to his family, and he's a junior wide receiver from Del Val, as you can see. Sorry about that, Aaron. And next year, if you guys go back, we're going to make sure we chronicle this a lot better, make sure that technology doesn't have fits on you. Union, Wesley, and Brockport have a few more than the other 2 schools, but we've assembled a little bit of a video, long-form video here of players that wanted to send holiday wishes. It's Thanksgiving, for goodness sake, everyone. And here you go.
I'm Pat Bernardo, senior here at Salisbury University. I'm not going to get so much time to spend with my family this Thanksgiving, chasing the championship. But I just want to give a quick shout out to my mom, my sister, my dad, my brother, and all the rest of my family. I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to have a great Thanksgiving. Go Goals, don't want to be no Dutchman, baby.
My name is DJ Martin. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and just want to give a special shout out to my family because unfortunately I can't see them this Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi, my name is Ruan Peel from Wesley College. I will be missing Thanksgiving this year. Shout out to my family back home in Piscataway, New Jersey. We'll be home soon after we're done chasing this championship run.
I'm Zach Christian. I'm from Metairie, Louisiana. Just want to wish a happy Thanksgiving to my family. I'll see you guys Saturday at the game.
Hi, I'm Ben Damiani. I'm from Lake Castle, New York. I miss spending Thanksgiving with my family and friends this year. See you guys when we're done chasing the chip.
I'm Will Sermon from New Orleans, Louisiana. Won't be home this Thanksgiving, unfortunately, but I'm sending my love home to my family. I love you guys and I miss y'all. And huge shout out to Mrs. Cox for hosting me and a bunch of other football guys this Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Andrew Coves from Minnesink, New York. I'll miss spending Thanksgiving with my family and my friends back home. I'll see you guys after we're done chasing a championship. Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Hi, I'm Corey Williams from Wesley College. I'll be missing Thanksgiving this year with my family. Shout out to my family back home in Sayreville, New Jersey. I'll see you guys after we finish this championship run.
I'm Dante Scott from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm going to Ryan's house, Ryan Eret's house for Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for him. Shout out my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my aunts, my brothers, my sister, my whole Franklin High School clique. Shout out them. And then, happy Thanksgiving.
How y'all doing? Jawan Manigo, Delaware Valley University. I just want to wish my family and friends back home happy Thanksgiving. Sorry I won't be there. We got a real big game, and hopefully give you another week of football.
I'm Max Shakeway from Los Angeles, California. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to my mom and my dad back home.
Hey, my name is Ellen Cromer from the Bronx, New York. I miss spending Thanksgiving with my family, especially my mom and dad. I just want to give a shout out to all the Brockport fans out there. Go the Eagles.
Connor Fitzgerald from Long Island, New York. I'll miss you guys at Thanksgiving this year, and to the boys at the Turkey Bowl. But we're doing work up here, and I'll see you soon.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Mullen from Wesley College. I'll be missing Thanksgiving with my family this year in Bay, New Jersey. I just like to give my mom and my brother a shout out. We'll look forward to coming back with this championship run. Thank you to our friends and family at home.
This is Stephen Gravani from Otapan, New Jersey. I'm upset I can't be with my family in Florida for Thanksgiving. I just want to shout out my mom and dad, my Nana who's down there. And I want to shout out all my sisters, Kelly who's out in Michigan, Emily in South Carolina, Courtney in North Carolina, and Katie out in California. I wish you all the best for the holidays, and we're doing work up here, but I'll see you guys soon.
Clay Cole from Amityville, New York, and I just want to say I miss Thanksgiving with my family and friends, especially my mom and dad. I want to give a big shout out to our Brockport fans. I want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Go with the Eagles.
Hey, I'm Dante Daniel. We're from Wesley College. We'll be missing Thanksgiving with our family back home, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, especially the Daniels family and the Cruz family. But a big shout out to our fans and family out there. Thankful for supporting us, and hopefully we get this championship on the championship run.
I'm Josh Greenwood from Endicott, New York. Sorry, Mom and Dad, I won't be home for Thanksgiving. We're still chasing this chip. Thank you to all of our fans who are going to be watching us from back home. Happy Thanksgiving.
My name is William Bellamy. I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. And unfortunately, I won't be home. I'll be playing football this Thanksgiving. So I'd like to shout out all my family in Louisiana, my little cousins, Luke, Cooper, Davis, and Landon. I'd also like to shout out the STM Cougars playing in the semifinals this weekend. Go Cougars. And last but not least, I'd like to shout out my girlfriend who continues to watch us from Greece. Happy Thanksgiving.
So we end with Will Bellamy, the guy who kind of gave us the idea without realizing it. And we have to send our own shout out to Ava, who's doing a term in Greece, a Rockland County lady who apparently has the affinity of Will Bellamy at this point in time. Ava is a big-time viewer of the show, as he alluded to. She follows everybody back in Union in terms of Union football, and she watches the show. And so, Ava, thank you. I'm glad that somebody's keeping Will in line because, besides Coach Bierman, when the offseason hits, you're going to have to come back and keep him in line because he's a handful. There's no doubt about it. We love Will. He's been great with us during this run, and we love all these players and their families. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. JB, let's close the show with what we're thankful for. You gave a little indication with regard to football earlier, but even in just life, what are you thankful for in this Thanksgiving season 2019?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question, Frank. I guess I feel like I'm a very lucky guy. I mean, Jen's been great. Just love being married to her and having this. Brady Bunch, mishmash of these 5 teenagers running around here, all with different, unique personalities, interests. We're going through some of the teenage challenges too, and this part of being a parent. Just I feel very fortunate, very lucky. There haven't always been times in my life where things were as easy and as happy as they are now, and so I'm just grateful for that. And just looking forward to a nice, quiet family holiday after, everyone sort of scatters.
Here. Sleep will be at a maximum once we get past the Salisbury game on Saturday. I will be going down there Friday, starting to drive New York City, Saturday down there. Check our Twitter, obviously. I'm thankful. Look, I don't have a significant other in my life. There are sacrifices made, obviously, for the different things that we do with the refereeing I do and the broadcasting and everything else. And, there will be some changes that have to get made eventually at the age of 43. You start getting tired beyond what a 43-year-old should get, and it happens from time to time. So the running joke at the beginning of the show of the Frank replacement auditions, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but eventually we're not going to be able to do this forever. I think there'll be a season 13 if I had to guess right now. Let's get through season 12 before we even have to talk about that stuff, and a couple postseason shows in your kitchen perhaps. But for me, I am a bombastic character in a lot of people's eyes. A personality is what I call myself, not a broadcaster or a journalist, more so these days. But every time that somebody kind of tries to come step on me because of the things that I say or do, something happens in our relationships with the schools or even other things in life that make me realize that what we do is appreciated out there. And I'm so thankful for the people that kind of help ground us and tell us, look, don't listen to the static. Listen to the people that you touch and affect every week. 16 weeks worth of this, plus preseason and postseason stuff that we do. You lose track of it. You really do, of what you are able to affect. And being able to talk to these players and give them even life advice and job advice and stuff like that. We were doing that earlier on some text messages and keeping track. There's some stories to be told. David Tamero, I'm hearing, may be getting pro looks out there. We're going to follow up on that, for instance. There's a guy that we absolutely loved after the season last year, and our heart poured out for him when Jim Margraf passed away at the beginning of this year. And, for him to come on the show and talk about that whole thing, it was just like, this is a man. This isn't a kid, okay, in our book. And to hear that he's still thriving despite the season that Johns Hopkins had, which was a good season, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't last year's season. It's great to hear that. And the relationships we make and keep here make it worth doing this show. So, we've got static. I've got a parent that chased me in the field. We talked about that. We've had issues here and there. But for me to even be able to go back to Union College this year, the amount I've been able to for interviews, for games, and to be embraced by Coach Behrman and the team has been extraordinarily meaningful and special to me. Yes, again, not everything's forgotten and forgiven in terms of certain aspects of what happened a few years ago. But the people that weren't involved with that don't deserve to be penalized. And that's why we wanted to go back there and do the right thing, or at least I did. And you kind of gave me the thumbs up on it. And Will Bellamy, again, bring up his name. Yep. He was one of the people that was instrumental to say, Frank, I want to meet you. And I said, you know what? It's time. And you were the one that put the survey, the poll up there, that made it happen. So I know this is long-winded, but I just want everybody to understand, when you write to us or comment to us of your love of the show or what we do, even if we disagree about certain things in the Brevard game that, whether players push out of bounds and deserve being ejected in our comments, understand that you're watching our show. We understand that. We appreciate it. We absolutely appreciate it. And, we'll still argue the pluses and minuses. That's our job. But we love you guys. We love Division III. This is not for money for us. It's not for money for you as players and their families. So you're losing money as much as we are because you're paying the bill probably in a lot of cases. But we appreciate you. We do appreciate you, and we are so thankful for you. So beyond my family that I'll be spending Thanksgiving with tomorrow, and yours too, JB, tomorrow, you are our extended family. And we do appreciate you for what you've given to us over this last 12 years, basically, give or take. So go enjoy your holiday season, everyone. Thanks to Coach Fitzgerald. Thanks to Brandon at Brockport, Michael at Wesley, Chris at Del Val, Steve at Union, and Cyril at Salisbury for helping us assemble the video earlier that you saw. Thanks to Ava in Greece for watching us, because that might be our longest distance view that we have out there. And thanks to you, JB, for being such a great co-host to me over the years.
Same to you, Frank. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, sir.